Hello everyone and welcome back. In the second part of the video, we are going to look at the two different processes of bone formation. So they are depending either if our bones are flat or our bones are long. So the first process of bone formation that we are going to look at is the endochondral. Endochondral ossification. So this is the process that happens in long bones. And it's characterized because first we are forming a cartilage template, and then the cartilage template is remodeled into bone. And then we have also the intramembranous, which is the process that happens in flat bones and small bones, and is characterized because the mesenchymal stromal cells, they are not going to differentiate first into cartilage, they are going to differentiate directly into bone cells, into osteocytes and also osteoblasts. Okay, so let's look at these two processes a bit more in detail. So first of all, we are going to look at the process of endochondral ossification. And this endochondral ossification process is characterized because first the MSCs condense and then form a cartilage template. So the MSCs are of the forming bone, and the MSCs will form a cartilage template, so they differentiate into chondrocytes. Okay. In the second step, what is going to happen is that to this cartilage template with the MSCs here, this template is going to get vascularized. So there are some blood vessels that are going to invade here this cartilage template, and this is going to increase the amount of oxygen and also the amount of nutrients. So these chondrocytes, they are going to become hypertrophic. So these hypertrophic chondrocytes, they are going to start secreting bone matrix, so they are going to start changing the matrix, the cartilage matrix that they are producing by minerals, the production of minerals, of calcium phosphate particles and crystals, and also the production of different types of collagen, for example, collagen type 10 and a collagen type 1, which are going to be the fibrous component of bone. Then what we are going to have next is going to be the formation of the primary ossification center. So this primary ossification center is in the center of the bone, so that's going to originate later the diaphysis and also the medullary cavity, where we are going to have the bone marrow. And this is just going to be the secretion of more bone tissue and more components of the bone ECM and more bone remodeling and maturation. So after this happens, what we are going to have next is going to be the formation of secondary ossification centers. So we have here the primary that was originated before. So we are going to have secondary ossification centers that are going to form later the epiphyses, or the two different extremes of the bones that we have been seeing before in the structure of the long bones. And also this is going to happen because we are going to have vascular invasion here to the secondary ossification centers as well as the primary ossification centers. So at this point, we are only going to have cartilage here in this part here of the outside of the bone. So this is really important because that's going to give birth later after maturation to the cartilage in our joints that are going to allow our joints to move smoothly. And also we have a secondary cartilage step here, which is the epiphyseal cartilage. So in order for the bone to fully mature and develop the fully mature bone, we need to get rid of this epiphyseal cartilage plate. And after we get rid of this epiphyseal cartilage plate is going to give birth to what we called before the metaphysis. So the final one that we have is the epiphyseal So in this epiphyseal closure, the bone is going to get rid of this cartilage here between the secondary ossification centers. So the secondary ossification centers and the primary center are going to merge, and we are going to have a spongy bone, the medulla, and finally the cortex, the compact bone. So finally, we only have cartilage here on top, covering here the diaphysis, and then the two ossification centers, they merge together, and finally we have here the spongy bone. We'll have here the compact bone, and the medulla. Okay. So in this final step, in the mature bone, this epiphyseal cartilage plate has been finally mineralized, and the secondary and the primary ossification centers, they come together to form the fully mature bone. And we only have cartilage at the end of the bone covering the epiphysis, forming the bones. The cartilage, the joints. Okay, so this is a process by which the long bones are created, the femur or the humerus, any of the long bones of our body. But then we have another process that is really different to this one, which is the process of intramembranous ossification, which we're going to look at now, which is the process by which our flat bones are generated. So the main difference between the process of endochondral ossification and the process of intramembranous ossification is that in endochondral ossification, first we need a cartilage template, and from that cartilage template we are going to create a bone. But in intramembranous ossification, the MSCs, the mesenchymal stromal cells, they directly differentiate into bone cells, so we don't have that cartilage intermediary. So in this process, first we have that the MSCs, they are going to come together and they are going to condense. So this is very similar to the process in endochondral ossification, but instead of differentiating to chondrocytes, they are going to differentiate directly into the bone cells, into the osteocytes and also the osteoblasts. And this process, differentiation of the MSCs to osteoblasts, is called osteogenesis, and they are going to form a structure called the osteocyte. Sorry, not the osteocyte, the osteoid. So these MSCs, they are going to differentiate directly into bone cells through the process of osteogenesis, and they are going to form this structure here that is called the osteocyte. So in the osteocytes, the osteogenic cells, they are going to secrete a lot of ECM for the bones. So they are going to secrete a lot of calcium phosphate and hydroxyapatite crystals, so they are going to start the process of mineralization. So what is going to happen next is that the osteocytes, they are going to grow as they mineralize the tissue, and they are going to form what is called spicules. Okay, so here the osteocytes, they are going to merge to each other, and they are going to grow, and they are going to form these spicules. So here we'll have the osteoblast and the osteocyte cells surrounding the spicules. And I forgot also here in this process of differentiation, we also have these blood vessels here in the matrix. So these osteocytes, they are going to merge, and they are going to form these bigger structures called spicules. But then the blood vessels, they are going to remain outside the spicules. And what is going to happen next is that the spicules, they grow so much that they are going to have the blood vessels inside the spicule. And that's going to provide much more oxygen, many more nutrients. So the process of bone remodeling is going to increase its rate. So the spicules, they merge to each other. Here we'll have the cells surrounding the spicule, which are the osteogenic cells that we have seen. And then inside, we are going to have the blood vessels. So that's going to increase the oxygen and the nutrients. And that's going to accelerate the process of bone remodeling. Okay, so finally, what is going to happen is that we are going to have the final structure of our flat bones. So all the fibrous tissue that was surrounding here, the MSC condensation and also the osteocytes, is only going to exist here in the outside. So here we are going to have the fibrous tissue. Then under the fibrous tissue, we are going to have the compact bone tissue or cortex. And we are also going to have the osteogenic cells that were forming the osteocyte. And finally, between the two cortexes, we are going to have the spongy bone. That is really well vascularized. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed the lecture today. We have seen in the previous video the different functions of the skeletal system, also the different classification of the bones. We have also seen the structure of the long bones and also the flat bones, the type of cells in both tissues, and also the organization of the extracellular matrix. And now in this final part, we have seen the process of endochondral ossification and intramembranous ossification. Really important to know that the endochondral ossification depends on the formation of a cartilage intermediary, and then in the intramembranous ossification is only for flat bones and is the process by which the mesenchymal cells, they differentiate directly through osteogenesis into the bone cells. Well, I hope that you enjoyed the lecture today. See you in the next class.